summarizes his principles, his philosophy, his life's mission, his hopes, and his faith in the strength, inevitable triumph, and reascendancy of African people. For those who never had the opportunity to meet or hear Dr. Bobby E. Wright, this presentation will serve as an introduction to the man and his mission. For those who were fortunate enough to have known Bobby, this will be an opportunity to remember, to be re-inspired, and to be rejuvenated by their old friend.
Asante Sana, Habari Gani, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. You know, sitting listening at the other two presentations always influences me to somewhat modify mine, especially since we went through that tour de force of, we went through that tour de force Jenny did of mental health centers. My position is the exact opposite of Jenny. I'm very unique, and I hate to be one of those who say I'm the only one, but I'm probably the only black in this country who is over an all-black comprehensive mental health center. There's only one we've been able to identify, and that's Garfield Park. Of the 750 some centers that are in operations now that was designed in 1963 primarily for black people, only one in this country is an all-black center. Yet there are hundreds of all-white centers, all-white comprehensive centers. Not only is Garfield Park all-black, the staff is black, and I'm in a community with 118,000 black people. We have approximately 96,000 face-to-face contacts per year, 96,000. So when I talk to you about behavior and all, it's coming out of some type of background, because the majority of our people in Garfield Park are from Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and places like that have southern backgrounds in the city of Chicago. Also, by the mere fact that I'm also unique in another way, in that I grew up in an all-black town not 100 miles from here, called Hobson City, Alabama, which my grandfather was one of the founders of, one of the oldest black towns in this country. It doesn't have the reputation of Mount Bayou because one of the problems we had as we were growing up that we always had a problem with was becoming known. We didn't want to become known, and for many years I've never wanted to become known. In fact, it's not well known, but up until about 1975 was the first time I ever consented to speak in front of a mixed group. The tragic reason I'm telling you this because I'm going to talk to you as psychology students or behavioral scientists, black, because there's only one fight left, just one, and that's for the fight for the black mind, and we are losing. We are losing. You see, because if you stop to think about it, some of the things I'm going to show you, and then we're going to give some solutions. Today I'm going to tell you some things that you will reject, but that we can do, and that we should be about doing. And they're very simple things, something you can do in your day-to-day life. The first thing you must recognize is as a black student, you have a responsibility that I just cannot tell you what it is. I mean, it is so awesome. But yet, you are no different than a Palestinian student. Students your age in Palestine are carrying guns, from Palestinian students. Israeli students your age, Jew students your age are carrying guns, in addition to going to school. Carrying guns. Students who also had to go to school had to carry guns. All we're asking you to do is what? Go to school. And you are carrying guns, but against the wrong people. You're carrying guns, unfortunately, but against each other. Now, that becomes what I deal with is the difference between where we're at. By going to the University of Chicago and being trained there, and as Harold said, there's a difference between education and training. It is impossible, and I will say this to you openly, it is impossible for the Georgia school system to educate black children, but they can train you in those skills we need. Your education must come from the black community and from black people. There's a difference between education and training, and that's where I want to start this off with, because a lot of people get confused about that. In Alabama, with all black teachers, they taught me how to think. Not so much what to think, but basically how to think. They also taught me group behavior, not individualistic behavior. Now that is what training does. Training teaches you to operate against the best interests of your own group. It teaches you individual behavior rather than group behavior. Education is a liberating force. A liberating force. So I'm going to go through quickly some of the things on why you should learn the skills. And nothing I say, I hope, nothing I say will imply that we are not faced with a very shrewd very shrewd, uncompromising, dangerous enemy. Don't ever take it in your mind that these white people are going to be easy to be had. It ain't going to be true. This is a hard fight because they have the institution and we have the people. You see, and as long as you control institutions, you can control the behavior of people. Now, with that in mind, listen to it carefully. The first lesson, the very first lesson you must learn as students is that the fundamental mistake you can make is to try to use white definitions to explain or analyze black phenomena. That's the first mistake you make. And anytime you use their definitions that are given to you, you're in trouble. Now, the second lesson I go against Harold here. I do not think you should tell your white professors nothing. I do not think you should argue with them. I don't think you should do anything. I think you should accept the skills they get and go about those. I don't know your black professors either. Your objective of being at Atlanta Junior College is to acquire skills and get out and go on to Morehouse and then for Morehouse. The reason you're in school is to get a degree. Yes, playing cards and all that. That's mentacide behavior. Mentacide behavior. Let me tell you something that Sister Gwen Rockwell and Brother Naeem can tell you. They used to bring me down here every year. Most of the time I had to pay my way, but they still brought me. They used to bring me down every year to talk to the combined students over at Morehouse, AU, and all like that. And invariably, we get all these black students who say, "Oh, Dr. Wright, we crazy about you. Why don't you come south and take over one of these schools?" You know what I used to tell them, and I say this clearly. I have a great deal of admiration for these black teachers working in these schools. You think I have it bad in the mental health center. At least I know I'm dealing with people who are crazy. I mean, at least I know that. I just realize that, I'm not annoyed. I don't mean that to be funny. I really don't mean that to be, believe me, I know a lot of students have come up to me now and say, "Hey, we read your stuff and all," but let me tell you something. If I came to Atlanta and took over a school, the first day here, I would send half the black students home. Half black students would go home. I really would, and it wouldn't be hard for me to find out who I was going to send home. One just walk through the halls and do things. I know exactly who's going home. Right then. The second day, I sent half the black faculty home. Yeah. You see what I'm doing? The third day, I sent all the black administrators home. All of them. And then we'll be about the business of teaching. Because I swear, I see students doing stuff to black people, black adults I've never seen before. I'm very serious about this. Okay, let's go through it. Here's what we're going to go through. I'm going to go through with you something you might not have seen before. But every time, by being over this very large agency, we have, and by the way, we train AU students. We train students, I'm talking about giving them their field placement. We give the internships to people from Harry. We train them. We give from Howard University train at Garfield Park. We train people. But one of the things that happen invariably is that students come in and say, "Yeah, Bobby, Freud is nothing, Young ain't had it, never had, da-da-da." And I said, "Fine." And they're not relevant to the black experience. I said, "Can you tell me why?" Let me show you why. I'm just going to take some at random because these are what I call mental style programs. These are mental style theories. These are mental style modalities. And invariably, what you try to do is take these and treat black people, and it never works. Remember, the ultimate objective of mental health in this country is to get black folks to adjust. To adjust. Some of the sickest black people I know, remember, I do not call people niggers. I do not call them toms. I never use that word. I never use that word, and you shouldn't. That's the first thing you should stop and just throw it out of your vocabulary. Throw it out of your vocabulary. We have a right to have sick people like everybody else. And we should begin to differentiate between what's appropriate behavior and inappropriate behavior without getting into the name calling and all like that. Now, it's to adjust, and remember the definitional, I told you. Remember that definitional warning I told you. Let's take a theory. Let's take a theory of Maslow. All of you heard Maslow, because blacks like it, because I'm sure where else it goes from. Maslow had a theory called self-actualization. All you remember, okay, first you have to fulfill, here's the way it's the model. This is the model. First, food, water, sex. Sex here is for procreation of the species. These basic needs must be met first. This is Maslow. You all are trained, many of you are trained, because from this came transactional analysis, came pearls. I'll go into it in a minute. The next one is safety. That's the next level, safety. That's the next level. The third level is self-esteem. Fourth level is love. And then self-actualization. That's the Maslow model. Give or take a line. That's the Maslow model. Right away, you should see clearly here. You should clearly, if you try to apply, no matter how good it sounds, this theory to the black experience, or to trying to treat blacks right away. We have problems getting food and water. Sex doesn't seem to be a problem yet, but women get it. No, it might be. Let me tell you about that. We got a problem with all three of these. Let me tell you why we have all three of these. Now remember, these are the hierarchy of needs. Maslow takes the position that in order to be a healthy, functioning individual, you must secure these needs and go here. A hierarchy of needs must be met. If that is true, we ain't never been safe in this country. If that be true, you can see right away, and I'm not teaching you all this so that you can go up and tell your professor that. What I'm saying to you is this is the way you do analysis. But in order to do analysis, you must first know it. You cannot analyze something you don't know. And we've been in this country 400 years and know nothing about it. That's a tragedy. That's Mentacide. And I'll talk about just a little bit about it. Okay, now, but look at what else Maslow said. He said, if you cannot do these things, most certainly you cannot have self-esteem. And without self-esteem, you cannot what? Love. Now let me show you here, sex, which was for procreation. How all of this ties in it. Now, out of this, of course, out of this, what you call sort of non-directive counseling, came Fritz Perls that all you all have up on your walls. I'm not in this world to satisfy you. You're not in this world to satisfy me. You do your thing, I do mine, and we happen to cross somewhere beautiful. You know, that same old BS they got us all doing, this individual stuff. You don't tell me what to do, I don't tell you what you do, you know, and all of that. And we're the only people that engage in that type of behavior. We're the freest people in this country in that respect. Where we individuals, you can do anything you want to, and the black community cannot sanction you. In one sense, we're the freest people in this country. No Jew can do anything he wants to against the Jews. No Irish can do anything he wants to against them. But any black can get up here and say and do anything they want to, and we cannot sanction them. Keep that in mind. What I'm talking about, and I'm going, like I said, we have to go, because I know we got a lot of questions. Now, the sex now becomes a problem here, because, as you know, many of you have heard me talk about this today, but you should understand this. Today, in 1980, the group with the largest suicide rate in the nation are young black males, 17 to 33. Largest suicide group, the group with the largest suicide level. The group with the largest homicide rate, young black males, 17 to 33, killing themselves, killing each other. The group with the largest institutional rate, that means going into mental hospital and the prisons, young black males, 17 to 33. Now let me tell you the significance of that. The significance of that is this. The significance of that, well, let me go one step up. Now when you raise the question of homosexuality, which means you're now also talking about the ratio of what? Males, black males to black females. Sex becomes now a problem here now. And I'm talking about the way they use it for procreational purposes. And if we look at some of the statistics about that, which at 14 and under, at age 14 and under in the black community, for every 100 black females, there are 102 black males. From 14 and under, at the age of 14 and under, for every 100 black females, there are 102 black males. However, from the ages 14 to 24, for every 100 black females, you have 96 males. And then from 25 to 44, for every 100 females, you have 84 black males. 84 black males. Now, when you take into account the institutional rate alone, for example, let me give you an example of that. For every 100,000 black men, for every 100,000 white men, 105 in prison. Every 100,000 white men, 105 in prison. For every 100,000 black men, 1,004 in prison. 1,004 for every 100,000 black men, yet we are less than 15% of the population. All right, now if you begin to look at those ratios, then you have to project, during the childbearing ages, how many functional black men are there for each 100 black women. And you run into some statistics of, say, less than 55. Less than 55. Now, given this reality, these are the type of problems I'm saying to you that you as a student must begin to, let's look at the other things together. So what they say is, okay, here's what they're saying now to us. They're saying, those of you who are making it, those of you who have PhD from University of Chicago and the head of mental health centers, you got it made. It's a class struggle now. Class. And we all know, which they care. See what happened in the 60s. Why we lost the battle in the 60s. Why you never hear nobody talk about the 70s. How many of you people here talk about the 70s? Nobody. Everybody said, boy, in the 60s. And here we are in the 80s. You know what I mean? You know, nobody talk. Because in the 70s, those whites regrouped and wiped us out. You see, here's what happened. White women saw their men in trouble. And like all female animals, anytime the male gets in trouble, the female attacks. That is a law of nature. A law of nature. If you don't believe it, we can prove it in a zoo anytime you want to. Now, what happened, white women came out and captured our women and convinced us that white women were not as racist as white men. And convinced us, or convinced our women, that they would place them above their husbands, their brothers, their lovers, their children, their sons, and we say, then the white gays came out and convinced our gays it was a gay struggle. And stole our gays, you know. Okay? White students came out and grabbed our black students, said it was a student struggle, and wiped out our black students. And all of a sudden, we up here wondering, where's the fight? You know what I mean? You know, it's not about. So now they're coming up with books such as, book is The Declining Significance of Race. Brother named Wilson wrote that book, who is the chairperson of the Department of Sociology at the University of Chicago. That's very revealing. Because out of that same department came who? Black bourgeoisie. E. Franklin Frazier in 1939. That is the Chicago school where you show. So what Wilson is saying, this brother wrote this book, The Declining Significance of the Race. And race is declining in significance, and now class becomes important. Of course, Wilson is the only black in the Department of Sociology at the University of Chicago. That's one reality. The other reality, he has a white wife. Now, race declines every night for him. You know, and look, I mean, that's what it's all about. But look, okay, so which way do they get our brighter students? What do we need to begin to develop? And that's what all these conferences should be back. And keep that in mind. The only reason I go around the country is to begin to develop a black social theory. A black social theory. Now, this is the problem we have. Why we're in all this problem, because one of the things that happened to your generation that didn't happen to me and to everybody else who's at my age is when I was growing up, the black community rewarded those people who tried to get an education. Rewarded them. Now we are anti-intellectual, anti-educational, and completely ahistorical. Don't pay any attention to history. So what they do to us is our brightest black minds. Look, these are our brightest brothers and sisters. They grab through their social theories. One is what? Marxism. Marxism. That's the danger to all our black students. That's class theory. Class. Now let's do Marx just like we did Maslow. Let's do it quickly. Marx said basically there are two classes of people. The one he called what? The ruling class, the bourgeoisie. The other he called the what? Proletariat. Proletariat. Two classes. And the relationship to these two classes is the production of what? Means of production. This relationship. And the ruling class' sole reason to exist is for profit. Profit. And in order to make more profit, they would have to exploit this group of people. Marx went even further. He said just by time alone, you don't need any intervention. Just time alone means that ultimately the proletariat would have to overthrow the ruling class in order to survive. Because the more profit the ruling class wanted, the more they would want, the more exploitation of the profit. But he said something else. He said that if you had people who understood the science of capital, the science of what he was talking about, Marxism, you could then raise the contradiction, artificially raise the contradiction between the, that's what the word raising the contradictions came about, those slogans that the Panthers used and didn't understand. That you could raise the contradiction between these two groups and induce revolution. See, Marx lived in 1848. And Marx didn't know that this proletariat here would go into things called what? Unions. And guess what unions are for? Profit. So you got two damn group of white folks fighting over profit. Okay, now, blacks are not in the ruling class or in the unions, believe it or not. The blacks are what Marx called what? The lumpen proletariat. Now the Panthers, and I'm not just picking on Panthers, many of them are my students who are opted to not stay in the struggle for race and did it for class and ass. But the thing about this here is that even the Panthers start calling us what? Lumpen. The lumpen proletariat. Guess what Marx said about the lumpen proletariat? Marx stated that the lumpen proletariat was not a potential revolutionary force. So even Marx said that. So because they're what? They're not parts of the means of what? Production. So if you admit that we are lumpen proletariat, you cannot say you're a Marxist. Not as a black person, unless you need my professional services. You simply can't do that. We can. I tell you, we know Naeem and I, we got this thing going. I always say, the one contradiction in the black community, and I'm very serious about this. I know stuff I sound funny. I'm very serious about it. Is that we have no contradictions. That's the one contradiction. There are no contradictions in the black community. And that is because, again, the thing I'm talking about, Mentacide. Let me move on here. Okay, so that takes care of Marx. Okay, let's talk about Freud just for a minute. See, Freud. I think you all should study Freud. Study Freud because Freud took the position that there were differences between blacks and whites, and he didn't put no type of value on it. He put the value on the Europeans. Here's what Freud says, and says it clearly. Read him clearly. He said that the white race, he was very clear about it. Very clear. The Europeans, he wrote it very clearly. And he wrote all about Africans, that Africans seem to have a different type of personality. He said the Europeans are motivated by two genetically determined irrational drives, namely sexuality and aggression, which he calls the death instinct and the life instinct, and constant battle. And Marx said since these are genetically determined traits, that they have two genetically determined traits, sexuality and aggression, that society had to be developed in order to set certain rules, in order to set certain type of conditions to keep these two natural drives to whites, from spontaneous, doing what? From spontaneous, spontaneous expressing themselves, therefore threatening the life, threatening the species. He wrote that clearly. And that is why if you try to expose black folks to analysis really means, that's what he meant. You have to, see, it's only about 4 things you can do to a person in therapy. Just for those of you who want to go on, I hope you do. Because this is fight for the mind. I'm just giving you I know about 4 things. One thing you can do for blacks in a mental health center, anywhere else, in this room, is that you can leave them alone. I mean, that's the first thing. And many of them would be better left alone. Better leave alone. Second thing you can do, however, is to do what? Give them support. Give them various support. Give them support in such a way, because what they're doing is needs certain of your professional skill to give them support. The third thing you can do, of course, is you can re-educate. You can re-educate means that their learning patterns, the way they address themselves to their life is inappropriate, and you re-educate. The fourth thing is possibly you might be able to do, and that's where Freudian psychology came in, psychoanalysis. It's completely restructure the personality. Literally give the person a new personality. And so Freud took the position that Europeans would have to be sent through psychoanalysis in order to try to contain these natural drives. Now, right away, you don't have to be no genius to understand that these are natural drives, how difficult it is. So when you see what Harold was talking about is somewhat in error. This is what is so difficult. See, what you are and all of us could fail to believe is there's some inconsistency with white people's theory and their practice. It is really not. It's really not. Now we get to your other one that all you go. Okay, that's Freudian. You can question me in depth. That's Freudian psychology. You learn it well enough and get a PhD in almost any country, in any university in this country. If you learn it well enough. If you learn it well enough. See, the whole process of getting through universities in this country is expended effort. Expended effort. Listen, that's all. And medical school is the easiest. Everybody's raving over Morehouse in medical school. You know what a black doctor does? He's a slave. Our black doctors are some of the most dysfunctional people you want to see. They never come out of those clinics. They come into their offices every day and hear 200 women, a gynecologist. Hear 200 sisters looking at them. And believe it or not, they do not treat those illnesses that they scream in. They treat the sister. And you can, I'm just showing you, this is another lesson. I'm off marketing now. I'm going in to talk to you about medicine. And next time you go to your physician, do this for me. Watch and see, don't they follow this pattern. First, they take you in a little room and you begin to get ready, be prepped by a nurse for the doctor. And you can hear him coming. Literally hear him coming towards you. And the most he spends with anybody is 10 minutes, if that. And as he comes in, he's going through his ritual. How are you? If you knew, why the hell would you be there? I mean, this, that, and this, and that. And all the time touching you and feeling you and, oh, yeah, you know, and writing the same prescriptions for you he wrote for the other 5. But let me tell you, what he's doing, he's treating the person. And that's very important. Because there's no way, if you stop to think about it, there's no way anyone, if you see one medical book that thick, it's impossible to comprehend everything in that one book. But you see, my point I'm telling you as students, don't let that deter you. If you can think it all, you need 2 things to get through medical school. 2 things. You need the capacity to study and a good memory. The capacity to sit for long periods of time and read garbage and regurgitate it. That's all. That's all medical school. In fact, medical school to me is the easiest school. Psychology, if you really, let me tell you about psychology, I'm going to go on that you all don't know. Let me just go through some of my experience. One time I walked into a clinic, I did my training at the University of Chicago Medical School. I walked into this room, and brother sitting there, this is over 10 years ago, brother sitting there, hooked up to a machine. I'm not hooked up from the head, like somebody from Mars. Hooked up. And, you know, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and the nurse was sitting there because it was intensive care. I said, what the hell? You know, well, I thought I knew everything about the brain. You know, me and my arrogant self. So I thought I knew everything about the brain, like many of you think you know everything there is to know at 18. So, and so what happened was, this was electrical stimulation of the brain. That's how I stumbled into the electrical stimulation. Just stumbled in there. I'd been reading about it. I knew almost everything about it, but when I saw it, I didn't recognize it. That's my only point. The other thing is that I'm just showing you what psychology is not what you all think it is. It's not giving people anything. There's another guy named Osgood at University of Illinois. Become very important now. Osgood did a lot of work with computers. But he came up with a theory called grit. They call it grit at the Pentagon. Graduated Reciprocal Initiative for Tension Reduction. What Osgood has done, he's done it a long time ago, but what he has done, he decided to treat countries like you do a personality, like you do an individual. That treat the entire country like you do an individual. And the Pentagon uses this. What this means is graduated reciprocal initiative. It means what they're doing with Iran right now. What they're doing with Iran right now, it follows Osgood law. A psychologist developed that. That was a psychologist. Then we have, of course, which I think is probably one of the 5 most dangerous crafters in the world. That's Skinner. Skinner. I never tell you what Skinner wrote. And y'all just think he's talking about M&M. He wrote these 8 words, and listen to them carefully, write them down, and look at it every morning. Those are 8 most profound words. See, Skinner wrote that behavior is shaped and maintained by its consequences. Listen carefully. That's why he wrote Beyond Freedom and Dignity. What Beyond Freedom and Dignity did was all of these black folks are talking about they want freedom and they want dignity, and if you listen to them carefully, we can give them what they want and still control them. The other was that they will induce blacks to begin to do birth control, become sterilized, by making the consequences money. Money. By saying to black people, if you do this, if you become sterilized at a certain age, we'll give you so much money. We'll give you so much money. Now, don't argue that, because, see, something I think, again, we are led to believe. We have been led to believe, and this is where the Mentacide. Mentacide is those who got it on the wall around here. And when I walk down the hall, don't identify me. Don't say, hey, Bobby, because I want these white folks to know that my name's up on that wall that y'all got around here. Mentacide is defined as the deliberate and systematic destruction of a group's mind with the ultimate aim, the ultimate objective being the extirpation or the extermination of that group. That's Mentacide. This deliberate and systematic destruction of a group's mind. A group's mind with the ultimate objective being the extermination of that group. And so if you begin to look at what Skinner and all of these, and I'm talking to you because most of you are psychologists too, this is what psychology really means. Anytime you see things on TV, psychologists have had something to do with it in terms of advertising. Anytime you see those projections on who's going to win an election, the moment that CBS at 6 o'clock at CBS at the polls closed, psychologists worked out those statistical formulas. See, back in 1925, what's his name, who was one of the first behaviorists who they caught on the top of a desk with a student and fired him. What's his name? Said, give me any student, any child, and I'll make it whatever I want. Watson, who was the first behaviorist. Watson, when they fired him from the University of Chicago, what Watson did went and started J. Walker Thompson's advertising agents, a psychologist. Became the largest in the world. You see, I'm saying to you, when you start talking about psychology, it's one thing you might hear this narrow thing here at the junior college. It's another thing altogether for whites. It was psychologists who started what is now the CIA. Only it was called then OSS in the Second World War. Before the Second World War, the United States didn't have that type of arm, that type of intelligence arm. I'm just showing you that how much you have to learn. And don't let anybody fool you and this feel you in that it's irrelevant. Because you're talking about people's minds. You're talking about influencing people. In fact, you're talking about determining their very existence. And as Harold said, I said, yes, I do say that. If you control minds, you control behinds. I don't care what people say. And so one of the problems we have, so in moving on to this, let me just give you a couple other things that you should look at about this. Now, if we look at a student, or we look at a university, it becomes very clear, Atlanta University, Atlanta Junior College system here, that one of the realities is our condition. And this is where blacks sort of get confused. This is where we get confused. Our true condition. One of our true condition is oppression, exploited, women are exploited, da-da-da-da. No. We are what? Enslaved. Enslaved. And the reason we're enslaved is because all of our life-sustaining institutions are controlled by whites. That's slavery. That's slavery. I will guarantee you, there's nobody in this room can tell me where you turn your water on at, or where you turn your lights off at. I ain't talking about in your house. Because they can turn your lights off without even coming in your house. All of our life-sustaining institutions are controlled by another group. That is slavery. That is slavery. Now, I'm not telling you all of this to depress you. You know what I mean? You know, I'm talking about because you keep hearing this type of stuff, and I believe that we are stronger than other group of people. Well, we have been led to believe that we are super people. We're not super people. We're simply just not utilizing the appropriate methods to address this problem. Most of the time, they get us because we personalize it. We personalize it because we have a white friend. What are you talking about? Whites treat me better than blacks. Why they ripped on my TV last night? We equate ripping off a TV with ripping off your mother. You know, now, let me give you an example. I was just talking about it, but this might be the first time y'all have heard it, but I was at the Social Workers Convention Friday in Washington. Some of us were here. Some of the students were here, too, from here. And I was pointing out that on the plane, the day before that, a sister had talked to some black students in Chicago, and a student had pointed out that a sister stood up and said, well, you're talking about these black men and black women. What about this? And told me that Kareem Jabbar had divorced his wife and is now living with this 23-year-old white girl, Kareem Jabbar. You all know Abdul Kareem Jabbar, the mad militant, you know. I get Sports Illustrated, this is my Sports Illustrated, 10 pages of Jabbar and this white girl. 10 pages. And this 33-year-old man says that this young girl has taught him more than his parents, more than his teachers, more than his coaches, more than his trainers, all in the space of 2 nights. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, you know, what I'm suggesting here, what I'm suggesting here, that if you look at this, here's some, and I'm clearing up because I want to get into some question and answer. Here's some things we're going to look at that are threatening. Here's the most threatening thing, yes. Harold got into it about black and African. The question becomes, what is a black person? Now, we've been having some deep arguments about this over the country, deep discussions about this around the country, quietly. But one of the problems is, and this is one of the problems, see, back in the 60s, one of my students who was Fred Hampton used to ask me, interrupt my class all the time, because we had these free classes, and called it community university. And he used to say, why are we like we are? Why is history demanding too much of us? That was his famous say. Why are black folks like we are? Is history demanding? And I used to tell him, and I'm going back to that now because I've gotten too far from it. It's very simple. We are in a race war. And we are the only ones who don't know it. Not only we the only ones don't know it, we the only ones don't even know what race we are. Seriously, give us a thought. Don't laugh about it. We are in a race war, and we refuse to accept it. All the statistics Jenny gave you, why do blacks just happen to show up? Why do blacks just happen to show up like this I just gave you? It just happened that way. Every time you look up, everywhere you go all over the world, blacks on the bottom and whites on top, it just happens that way. Hell, if it was just happening by stand, look, it defies every known law of probability that exists. The laws of probability state that if it was not color, somewhere in this world, you'll find black folks over whites. Somewhere in this world. Use your own textbook. The law of probability. They tell you science is objective and neutral. Then apply it to the black condition and watch how it go haywire. Goes crazy. Apply that same scientific methodology that you're learning here to the black condition and explain it to me. No. Science is not objective and it's not neutral. The way you develop science is two of us get together and say, look, this is going to be white. Okay? This is going to be black. You know, and if you don't accept it, I'll kill you. You know, I mean, that becomes science. Or if you don't accept it, you get kicked out of school. Yeah. You see what I'm talking about? And I always tell this, forgive me, I always tell this famous one about, I'm just throwing some things out. You see what you do is, let me tell you a trick. Here's a trick. If you really believe everything I'm saying, like many of you probably do, is crazy, take the position that I'm not crazy and prove it. If you really believe white people are not like I say they are, take the position that they are and prove it. That's called, by the way, the null hypothesis. You know, that's the way of doing things. In other words, I'm saying to you, the one way, and the danger we're finding now is that I go around the country, brothers and sisters coming up, man, I read and I heard you, and Bobby, you said this. I don't need for you to tell me what I said. What do you say? Right. We need you to begin to think. We really need you to begin to think. No one has ever asked us to think before. Think about that. Think about it. No one has ever asked us to think about anything. In fact, we have been told all that. Who told you to think? Who asked you to think? You see, that is a type of Mentacide. But anyway, I'm saying to you that, okay, if we look at it, if we begin to look at that, just that one thing about the racial question, about the fact that science, I always tell this about how you can influence people no matter what they see. Let me tell you how you can do it. I always tell a story about Notre Dame. It's the best example I know. Notre Dame, about 5 years ago, had 5 black boys playing for them. 5 on the basketball team. 5 playing for them. And Notre Dame was losing. And it was on TV. And as Notre Dame was losing, all of a sudden they started winning. And the opposing team went down the floor, shot a ball, and Notre Dame, the brother, grabbed it and started a fast break. And the announcer, who was pro-Irish, pro-Notre Dame, went crazy. Here come the Irish, here come the Irish, here come the Irish. 5 black boys coming down the court. 5 black boys coming down the court. and they yelling Irish. Here come the Irish. Now, your mind accepts that. Your mind don't even see any contradiction in that. Any contradiction. I always say to sister always says, see, these black men are nothing because look at all these white girls together. But guess what? 90% of white women in the black community, black women brought them in there. They're friends from the work, and they're all da-da-da, because you can't go to that community. Let's stop by Pascal's for a drink. And she goes in there and wipes out Pascal. I ain't gonna bring her back. You know, you don't have to worry about it. See, Mentacide. The same thing Wilson brings out all the time. Brothers who marry white people, or sisters who marry white people, do never choose the person they marry. They never choose them. They're always chosen. Now, if you don't want to believe that, I'll prove the end of it. Any brother who disproves that, let's go to downtown Atlanta right now, pick out the white girl you want, and walk up to her and say, hey, I want you. Well, just do that. Now, any sister you can walk up, she might say, F, you know, and walk on the way, but you ain't going to walk up to no white girl and say, hey, you look nice. No. Always, you are chosen. You are chosen. You see what I'm talking about? This is natural, this simple thing. Don't have to get real complex about it. See, it is so simple. It is so simple. Now, let me get to the final thing, and then I'm going to give you some suggestions. We keep believing that somehow black people in this country are in a very poor condition. Do you realize that black people in this country probably have a standard of living higher than 95% of the world's population? Do you know that? As bad as off as we are. In other words, the black gross national product is the 7th largest one in the world, in this country. That means the money all of us earn and all collectively. It's the 7th largest economy in the world. In fact, it's right behind India. India has $2 billion more than we do. $3 billion. They get 62 times 59. India is 3 billion ahead of us, but India has 500 million people. We have 30 or less. 30 million people and a gross national product of what? Of $59 billion. Okay? Now, another lesson. Blacks keep insisting these simple things that do not stand up under any investigation. That is, that white people will do anything for money. And all you students know, I already got condition of that. Whites, it's not race. They'll do anything for money because if it's to their advantage to do it for money, we'll listen carefully. Have you ever stopped to think that white folks print money? Did that ever cross your mind? Do you all think that dollar just grows up on your pillow? They print that money. They print it. Not only do they print that money, there are 6 little white boys in London who every day says, well, I think the dollar will be worth 35 cents today. Let's make it 69 tomorrow. Let's play hell with silver. 48 today and $6 tomorrow. You all really believe silver, so men are not making a decision on how much silver is worth? That's it. That's the power. To define money. Not money itself. We don't do anything for money. We don't do anything for that little money. And guess what? At one time, believe it or not, we were money. I'll give you 3 blacks for what? That equal land. They made us money. Even this analysis about unemployment. Everybody saying, well, the problem is unemployment. It's too many of us unemployed. Listen to me carefully. If you really want full black employment, let us get about something. See, I contend that just because you're unemployed don't mean you should be out of work. You see what I'm talking about? Just because you don't have no job, that's a lot of work for you to do. If we ever get that mentality, they'll give us jobs. That's right. You can believe it. Do you realize how much brain power is sitting around watching as the world turns without us? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Do you understand that all of this brain power? Do you know they allow you to sit up here and go to school? That's how arrogant they are. And lights, look here. Look here. Look here, I mean. Look at it. Think about this for the first time. Look how arrogant they are. Let us come in here together. Listen to that fool, Bobby Wright. Listen to him. So what? Do you believe, have you ever thought of that? How arrogant they are? Let us come together. No, they ain't nothing gonna happen. Let them come together. And we keep having these conferences. Keep having them. And nothing happens, so they keep having them. When they become, I'll tell you something. I will know, and you will know, when this becomes relevant. They'll stop it. They'll stop it. This one might be stopped soon. But anyway, now, let me just finish up. Okay, I have some recommendations. I didn't get a chance to get to religion because I know I'm down in the Bible Belt. I grew up down here. This is the Bible Belt, you see. Harold spoke to it. You see, you have to make a distinction between religion and spirituality. What they have us is in religion, and it's a very fundamental question I'm asking you then. If all of us agree that white people didn't give us good food, they didn't give us good clothing, they didn't give us good houses, why did they give us such good religion? I mean, have you ever stopped to think about that? Why did they give us such good religion? Give me the old time religion. See, let me tell you something you might not understand. Religion has always been counter-revolutionary. Religion has always been counter-revolutionary. In fact, if you stop to think about it, what religion does is the same thing we're supposed to do, get you to adjust to this life on earth. Because, look, in suffering, there is what? Redemption. Out of suffering, there comes redemption. So what if you don't have food in your house? So what if you don't have heat? This is just a small hotel room you're passing on through. To eternity. To eternity. Yeah. You understand? I mean, that's religion. That's why religion never leads to revolution. Unless you have your own indigenous religion. Unless you have your own. So where they gave it to us because it pacified us. And it still does. And that is why we're the only people where every time you see somebody speaking, it's a preacher. A preacher. You never hear rabbis, you never hear priests leading no white folks. Always leading us Reverend Andrew Young, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. No. I was with King. I know. King, though, let me give you this final example of that, because I know I'm down in King's hometown. And we could never get nothing going in Atlanta. Look, nothing could ever get going in this city. This was the hardest damn city in the world, even to make black folks where there was a struggle. This is the end of it, because we only have 5 minutes. This is the end of it. But we must realize that, I know y'all can see that, but I'm just going to do it brief. Political, economic, military, educational, it's one more, religious. Might be enough. Okay. What we do not understand here is this is a social theory. It has to take in account all of these institutions. You must have a political institution, you must have an economic institution, you must have a military institution, you must have an educational, and you must have a religion. And the only time you can have revolution, that's why this country has never been close to a revolution. The only time you can have revolution is that these institutions come in conflict. That's what happened in Iran. In Iran, the religious and the educational institutions came in conflict with the military and the political. That's what happened in Iran. Otherwise, there never would have been a revolution. That's another reason I tell you how dangerous education is, contrary to what you all believe. How dangerous colleges are. Every time there is a revolution, the first thing they close down are the universities. The first thing you close down the university. That's your most dangerous institution. People get into them and that thing. Unfortunately, if we had a revolution, first thing they would open would be our black school. See, that'd be the first thing they open. Now, let me just give you this what we should be about. Now, this is sort of out of context, but I'm going to push this. I'll tell you why I'm going to push this. I have 2 ads here. And these ads are taken from Ebony. One is black and white bleaching cream. At last, you can have shades lighter, smoother, softer skin with safe, scientific black and white bleaching cream that is not 1, not 2, but now 3 times stronger than before. It gets lighter, get 3 shades lighter, smoother, softer. Now, Natanola bleaching cream is double strength, lighten skin even faster. Let me tell you something. Have you ever stopped to think that you have never seen an ad that said darken your skin? Have you ever thought about that? Never have you seen in your life an ad that say this skin is 3 times stronger, this cream is 3 times stronger. It darkens the skin. Not that it wouldn't be bankrupt in a week, but at least we should be able to see one. Okay? Now, let me give my recommendations on what we should do. Here are my recommendations. 1, first recommendation I'm making is us as people from this point on. We must place the interests of our race above all other interests, above all other considerations. That's the first one. In anything we do and think, we should first ask a simple question. Does it help or does it hurt the race? That's number one. Place the interests of our race. 2, we should begin to sanction and punish those blacks who operate against our interests. Begin to sanction them and punish them. 3, that we should sanction completely and refuse to support those blacks who marry and cohabit with whites or members of other races. All right? Now, I'm talking about we should immediately begin to boycott from this day on Diana Silverstein, who you all call Diana Ross, O.J. Simpson, Leslie Uggams, Bill Russell, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, and we should really put on a type of probation. I haven't worked this one out yet. People such as Diane Carroll, Lena Horne, Red Fox, Sammy Davis Jr., and I'm saying to you, now you all might think it's revolutionary. This is not. This is really not. It's just that it's got to be articulated. Now y'all do with it what you want to. 4, here's one gonna lose a lot of people. Okay, we should make a conscious effort to darken the race. We should begin to make a conscious effort to darken the race. By accepting skin color as a criterion of adoption, we adopt children. Give that black child an equal chance. Please. The black, you'll be surprised you run these agencies, see all these little black kids, nobody wants. I'm not real black, no question on what they are. Nobody wants them. All right? Also, when you begin to look for a lover or mate, look, don't reject the sister or the brother because they're dark. You know, in 1980, we got to be talking like this, but yeah, okay? 5, no black can be considered a leader or hold a leadership position who marries outside the race. That's right. No black. No black. 6, we must stop using blacks in negative terms, black in negative terms. We got to stop doing that. Stop using that and don't. We must stop using the word nigger, Tom, and all that. You know, if you look at the image of Uncle Tom, it's an old black man with gray hair. The image of Aunt Jemima is an old black woman with a bandana on her head. Our grandmothers know. That's the image they gave us of Aunt Jemima. Now, we must begin, number 7, we must begin to consciously expose our children to positive black images, and those of us who are professionals must begin to spend some time in at least independent schools, after school on Saturdays and Sundays with our black children. We must begin to show them positive images. Number 8, we also must have artists. We must begin to develop artists like this who show strong black images and things like that. One of the things that we're running into in terms of the religion, and I don't care what you say, you have to believe God is white. Every picture you've ever seen of God, he was white. Unless you've been at the Institute of the Black Madonna, down at the Black Madonna. And you probably think, I ain't gonna tell you what you think about that, but everybody thinks. I remember even in our church when the fans had Jesus pictures on them. So if you get, you know, subliminal suggestions, you know, you get one, and that white Jesus just flashing in front of your face, you know, and cool you get. I'm gonna end by reading something to you, especially to you as black students, because I really love you very much. I really do. I love you very much, and I just have so much faith in you. I really do. I have so much faith in you because in you I see me, and the mere fact that that I don't think that we're any different than anyone else. I just think we'll rise above our problems. This is the poem, and they turned it into a song, and I want you to listen to it carefully. To be young, gifted, and black. Oh, what a lovely, precious dream. To be young, gifted, and black. Open your heart to what I mean. In the whole world, there are 1 million boys and girls who are young, gifted, and black, and that's a fact. You are young, gifted, and black. We must begin to tell our young, there's a world waiting for you. You will end up where the world began. So when you're feeling real low, there's a truth you should know. To be young, gifted, and black, that's where it's at. To be young, gifted, and black, oh, how I love to know the truth. There's a world without a fact. There's a world without a fact, and I'm haunted by my youth. But my joy of today is that we all will be proud to say, to be young, gifted, and black, and that's a fact. Lucia continua, Lashima Tachenda Bablishika. Sante Sana.
Part 2 of Bobby Wright, The Man and His Mission, is the question and answer session which followed Dr. Wright's presentation at the Black Psychology and Mental Health Conference at Atlanta Junior College, April 10, 1980. The questions have been edited for clarity. However, Dr. Wright's answers are complete and unedited. How does a black person coming from an all-black environment adjust to a predominantly white situation without losing his identity and compromising his principles? Also, give an example of how black people have been miseducated and trained not to appreciate themselves.
Okay, I think that the first thing we must differentiate between is between tactics and principles. I will compromise with you on tactics. If you say certain things about integration, I must go over here and work in this place because I can do something like that's black. I will not compromise on principles. I'm not talking about me, okay? And we have never made a distinction between principles and tactics. And that's why when we'll see a sister, say like Jenny, who's working over there with all those white folks and all, we'll say, see, she's not relevant because she decided to go there and work for those white people and not realize the things she talked to you about here today. See, and that's why I don't get into Tom and all, but I don't know why Jenny's over there. And I don't know what she's doing. I might not want to know, because if they find out she's talking to me, she's really in trouble. You know, I do want all of us to agree, at least, on the principles on which we exist. That's your first thing. The second thing you raise is the essential question. Most of our children, you see, that is where the Mentacide came in. They took away our history. Most people believe they are from Atlanta. But people in Chicago believe they're from Chicago. Let me give you an example, then just one. One example. You get 5 kids into a room. Italian, Jew, Polish, Irish, black. We don't have show and tell today. Show and tell where your people came from. This child here, Italian. Where did you from? I'm Italian. My people came from Italy. Jew. I'm Jewish. I came from Israel. Although they didn't. You gonna say it? I came from Israel. All right. Polish. My people are Polish. I came from Poland. Irish. My people are Ireland. I'm from Ireland. Black. Black. I'm from Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta. I'm serious. I'm from Atlanta. That is. And we have people who are denying. See, the only reason we accept Africa as well as we do today is because that was the only positive thing came out of Roots. After NBC said it was all right, then everybody became African. Only after NBC. The day before NBC said that, nobody wanted to be. And we still haven't integrated that, what she was talking about emotionally. Intellectually, oh yes, Dr. Wright, we are from Africa. That's absolutely true, but you must admit, we are also Americans. Yeah, like what the hell? You don't even have to tell me that. But also, people, let me give you an example when we say African American. Let me tell you how you get trapped in that.